In 1965, the co-founder of Intel, Gordon Moore, made an observation that the number of transistors in integrated circuits increases exponentially, doubling every 2 years. Though he did not set out on making a law of some sort, his prediction came to be known as the Moore's Law and became the guiding light for the semiconductor and related industries. Recently, a paper published in PLOS ONE by researchers Burg and Ausubel has shed new light on Moore's Law through historic data of Intel's chip density. Before proceeding, it is imperative to note that chip density refers to the number of transistors per unit area, and the paper reassesses processor evolution through growth in this. For this, the researchers took historic timeline data from Fairchild Semiconductor International for early integrated circuits and Intel for modern CPUs, as only these formed the longest publicly available time series and due to Moore's association with both. Interestingly, the study showed two trends that originate together but are divergent. During each phase, transistor density saw at least 10-fold growth within approximately 6 years. This was followed by negligible growth rates for at least 3 years. In fact, they noted that rapid transistor miniaturization was achieved during only 2/3 of the history of the transistor. The researchers state that this makes sense from an economic point of view, as this allows returns to be realized from the exponentially growing investments in R&D required by each new pulse of advances. Furthermore, they note that the advances in transistor miniaturization have massively slowed down throughout the last 2 decades due to many challenges in their manufacturing. Based on the analysis, they conclude that the next growth impulse in transistor miniaturization is due, and transistor density evolution might saturate after 1 or 2 more pulses. As the demand for even higher processing power is on the rise for technologies such as AI, 5G, and self-driving cars, and alternatives to silicon-based chips are already progressing. For example, Google's Sycamore using superconducting qubits completed a task in 200 seconds that would take the state-of-the-art computer over 10,000 years to complete. In this regard, Cerebras has developed the largest ever chip, the wafer-scale engine, which hosts 1.2 trillion transistors and 400,000 AI-optimized cores. Additionally, 5G infrastructure will reach capacity in today's zettabyte system around 2030, where the yottabyte era will begin for total global data generation. Thus, they state that the prediction of the silicon-based Moore's Law failing around 2020 has been underestimated, and researchers applying the law to other fields should re-evaluate their approach, as the biologistic model is more parsimonious. Boston Dynamics, the company behind Spot, has made another robot, but this time it's not based on an animal, rather it's a humanoid. The company posted a video of its Atlas robot completing a complex obstacle course and doing backflips almost flawlessly, which has gone viral on the internet. To answer why the company is focusing on parkour, in their blog they mention that if robots can eventually respond to their environments with the same level of dexterity as the average adult human, the range of potential applications will be practically limitless. In addition, they state that though parkour might seem as narrow, but it provides a perfect sandbox for the team to experiment with new behaviors and creating behaviors at the limits of the robot's capabilities. The Atlas team is working endlessly towards the robot's development, and there are so many complexities in it, such as its size, strength to weight ratio, runtime, range of motion, and physical robustness, etc. Moreover, in the video, one of the robots also stumbled a bit on pumping its arm like a big league pitcher, which is something most people watching the video would never notice. But Boston Dynamics states that they have even taken that into account and are working towards perfecting the overall behaviors. Boston Dynamics is not the only company going viral over humanoids. Recently, Elon Musk has also announced that the company is working on human-like robots called Optimus. Optimus will be about 5 feet 8 inches tall, will weigh about 125 pounds and will be powered by 40 electromechanical actuators and would be able to carry a cargo of up to 20 kilograms. In addition, Musk said that the robot's speed will be limited to 8 km per hour and the robots would be weak enough that an average human would be able to overpower them. Musk stated that the purpose of building such robots is to carry out dangerous and repetitive tasks and will have profound implications for the economy when it comes out next year. Additionally, the company also announced D1 chips, which they are using to make 𝙁𝙩, a supercomputer, but that's another story. Recently, Mark Zuckerberg has announced that Facebook will shift from being a social media company to a metaverse company that will blend the real and virtual worlds on a huge scale. So what exactly is a metaverse? Well, an article published in The Conversation by Nick Kelly from the Queensland University of Technology has shared some interesting highlights regarding this whole concept. The author states that humans have developed many technologies to trick our senses, from audio speakers and televisions to interactive video games and virtual reality, but no popular word has emerged that refers to the totality of the mashup of old-fashioned reality and our fabricated extensions to reality. Words like the internet and cyberspace have come to be associated with places we access through screens. They don't quite capture the steady interweaving of the internet with virtual realities such as 3D game worlds or virtual cities, and augmented realities such as navigation overlays or Pokemon Go. Just as important, the old names don't capture the new social relationships, sensory experiences, and economic behaviors that are emerging along with these extensions to the virtual. For example, Upland meshes together a virtual reflection of our world with non-fungible tokens and property markets. Facebook's announcement speaks to its attempts to envision what social media within the metaverse might look like. It also helps that metaverse is a poetic term. Academics have been writing about a similar idea under the name of extended reality for years, but it's a rather dull name. Metaverse, coined by the science fiction writer Neil Stephenson in his 1992 novel Snow Crash, has a lot more romantic appeal. Writers have a habit of recognizing trends in need of naming. Cyberspace comes from 1982 book by William Gibson. Robot is from a 1920 play by Carol Capek. Recent neologisms such as the cloud or the Internet of Things have stuck with us precisely because they are handy ways to refer to technologies that were becoming increasingly important. The metaverse sits in the same category. If you spend too long reading about big tech companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, you might end up feeling advances in technology, like the rise of the metaverse, are inevitable. It's hard not to then start thinking about how these new technologies will shape our society, politics, and culture, and how we might fit into that future. This idea is called technological determinism, the sense that advances in technology shape our social relations, power relations, and culture, with us as mere passengers. It leaves out the fact that in a democratic society, we have a say in how all of this plays out. For Facebook and other large corporations determined to embrace the next big thing before their competitors, the metaverse is exciting because it presents an opportunity for new markets, new kinds of social networks, new consumer electronics, and new patents. What's not so clear is why you or I would be excited by all this. In the mundane world, most of us are grappling with things like a pandemic, a climate emergency, and mass human-induced species extinction. We are struggling to understand what a good life looks like with technology we've already adopted. Mobile devices, social media, and global connectivity are linked to many unwanted effects such as anxiety and stress. So why would we get excited about tech companies investing untold billions in new ways to distract us from the everyday world that gives us air to breathe, food to eat, and water to drink? Metaverse-style ideas might help us organize our societies more productively. Shared standards and protocols that bring disparate virtual worlds and augmented realities into a single open metaverse would help people work together and cut down on duplication of efforts. In South Korea, for example, a Metaverse alliance is working to persuade companies and the government to work together to develop an open national VR platform. A big part of this is finding ways to blend smartphones, 5G networks, augmented reality, virtual currencies, and social networks to solve problems for society, and more cynically make profits. Similar claims for sharing and collaboration were made in the early days of the internet, but over time the early promise was swept aside by the dominance of large platforms and surveillance capitalism. The internet has been wildly successful in connecting people all around the world to one another and functioning as a kind of modern library of Alexandria to house vast stores of knowledge. Yet, it has also increased the privatization of public spaces, invited advertising into every corner of our lives, tethered us to a handful of giant companies more powerful than many countries, and led to the virtual world consuming the physical world via environmental damage. The deeper problems with the metaverse are about the kind of worldview it would represent. In one world, we can think of ourselves as passengers inside a singular reality that is like a container for our lives. This view is probably familiar to most readers, and it also describes what you see on something like Facebook, a platform that exists independently of any of its users. In another worldview, which sociologists suggest is common in indigenous cultures, each of us create the reality that we live in through what we do. Practices such as work and rituals connect people, land, life, and spirituality, and together create reality. A key problem with the former view is that it leads to a one-world world, a reality that does not permit other realities. That is what we see already on existing platforms. The current version of Facebook may increase your ability to connect to other people and communities, but at the same time it limits how you connect to them. Features such as 6 preset, reactions to posts, and content chosen by invisible algorithms shape the entire experience. Similarly, a game like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, with more than 100 million active users, allows limitless possibilities for how a game might play out, but defines the rules by which the game can be played. The idea of a metaverse, by shifting even more of our lives onto a universal platform, extends this problem to a deeper level. It offers us a limitless possibility to overcome the constraints of the physical world, yet in doing so only replaces them with constraints imposed by the metaverse will allow. What are your theories about the metaverse? Do let us know in the comments.